Here we go. Hey everyone, it's Kate and I'm here with Danielle LaPorte, having her back on the Yogahealer podcast. It was cool. I was remembering our conversation from a couple years ago when I just moved in to this house and we were talking about your book release, White Hot Truth. And I thought today, after seeing your podcast series that you've been releasing and the schedule and how, and just how you do things in terms of this like really high quality, high artistic functionality to spreading a message. I wanted to talk a little bit about, how you decide what you're going to do next. There's so many, there's so many opportunities that creatives have, and often people do more than they can do well. And what I've seen in your work is and I also am friends with Paul Jarvis, who's done a lot of work for DanielleLaPorte.com, and, just him talking about your choice to work with, quality over quantity and to, invest well in things that you're really interested in rather than to scatter to the winds. So I'd like to talk to you about that process and maybe if there's been a maturity over time with that.
Definitely. I'd call it sanity. Has there been an evolving sanity over time? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just let you start talking.
Okay. You just want me to riff on that?
Unskillfully interrupt you.
Super happy to talk about this because I love the creative process. I love the business that is communication. And I think, one of the ways I'm committed to being of service is to communicate in the most beautiful, word economic, simple way. I just really I would be mortified if someone told me that I wasted their time. I mean, not really, I have to go about my business, but I just don't want to waste anybody's time. So how I've always created is I'm looking for stuff in life through, and inspired, propelled by, dragged by my own pain, suffering, joy, and desire to serve. So I'm living my life. And I'm going to live my life to serve. I really think and this is my paradigm, so everybody can take what they want or leave the rest. I really think we show up here. I am a spark of God, and I'm here to help move things forward. So me just being happy and well and sane and healthy, that's of service. Yeah. And then I'm going to take it the next level, and I'm going to do what I can to tell people hey, this is how I got healthy and well and sane. And maybe you could do the same. Okay. And then I'm going to take it to the next level, and I'm going to make it as beautiful and simple as possible so it's accessible. So I know it's taken a while to get clear on this, to get it really succinct, but finally we're at a point where I can just say the company exists to alleviate suffering and to amplify joy. And those words, of course, are chosen very carefully. The joy is already there. Again, this is a paradigm. This is how I see life. The joy is the true reality, capital true, capital reality. It's already existing. So if I just help you let go of some of the obstacles in the way to that, alleviate that suffering, then we're just gonna blow up, volumize, put a light on what's already there. And guess what? It's really joyful. In terms of what to actually focus on. So I've just been making stuff that I've needed.
Wait, I want to comment on that first. Okay. If that's okay. So before we go on, that's core, just for the yogis listening, that's just core yoga philosophy of the 5 layers of self. So as spirit comes into matter, the first thing is joy. The first thing is ananda. It's this undulating bliss, and it's cool because it happens with embodiment. It doesn't happen as part of, it's part of the quality of universal consciousness and yoga philosophy, but when it comes into the individual, so when the individual first becomes a unique expression, that's the vibration.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yes.
And so what Danielle's saying here is that's just, to me, or what I'm hearing in it is that's just when you get awake to that part of the self, which is just on the inside of universal consciousness. Like it's right. It's just that next expression outward, that's the feeling vibration.
Yes. And you can't help but, for myself, you can't help but want to share it. I mean, again, like another universal principle is you're teaching, everybody's teaching. You teach by how you show up, by how you speak, by how you vibrate. So then take it to the next level, ask what you're teaching, and then take it to the next level and refine how you want to get your teaching out. So, I don't know where I was going. I just got lost in your comment on undulating bliss when we incarnate.
Undulating bliss. But you're right. And sharing, because I think it's a really important part, is that connectivity is part of it. Like if we get that, right? If we get that component of it, it helps so much, especially for the people that are afraid of their own expression.
Well, and anybody who's seen the light, use that metaphor however you want, you're going to want to share it. It's like, this eased my pain. This felt like an answer. I want to help you. And when you get to that aware, awakened place in yourself, my experience is you actually are in this realm of gentleness. The experience for me of maturing over time has been, I've become more gentle. And the Course in Miracles speaks of this, that, I'll put it in my own language, that like gentleness has been the fruit of my spiritual seeking, of my spiritual discovery. And when you're more gentle, obviously compassion is, the flavor of that. Everybody's in. It's not even a question about inclusivity. You are feeling everybody's pain. You are looking for everybody's pain. You are looking for everybody's joy. You're looking for everybody's wounds. You're looking for how you can help with the wounds and the joy. And if you're operating in this world, just to go back to the top of your question, then you're going to bring in discernment and intellect and figure out how you put that shit on some rails. And
deliver.
People. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the hard part then too, right? Is how do you take the impulse, the creative impulse, and make it into something that someone else can receive. Because there's a lot of issue with that. A lot of people out there where they're putting stuff out that it's not receivable. And that's where I see like so much of your, like how you package your creative impulse is receivable. So someone can receive it. And a big word in Ayurveda is digestible. So they can receive it, but then they can actually digest it, which means with digestion in Ayurveda, it actually changes the person vibrationally, right? Like good food, bad food. Like eat good food and you're like, everything's good, pooping good, have good energy, feeling good. And like bad food is like the opposite. We're like, I feel like crap, I'm having crappy thoughts, I don't like this person anymore. And it just kind of, so in the digestion process, what we receive is good. Now can we digest it and let it change us for the better? So you're doing that in how you're making stuff intentionally over time.
Well, one thing about digestibility, which a word term I use for that is accessibility, is I speak to everybody like I speak to my girlfriends. I'm the same person. If you were in my kitchen right now, we'd be having the same conversation.
Yeah, totally.
And so there's that. I have struggled with this over time. This is a struggle I'm in. This is super current. I've struggled over time, but it seems to have orbited around with, should I shift my language at all? Should I be bringing in more scientific validation? Because I see, what's been happening, like specifically in my space where, I'm so interested in heart-centered values and compassion and shadow work. All this research that's been done for years around, I'm just going to oversimplify and say it's really the heart that's directing the brain, not the brain chemistry directing the heart necessarily. And all that's becoming really, it's to the fore now. It's in popular dialogue. We're hearing a lot about it in podcasts, the wellness podcast space. And I've been saying this for years, but I've been saying it in Danielle language, which is very feminine. It's very chick. It's very poetic. And so that is accessible for very feminine, poetic chicks. in the wellness space. You know, you talk to anybody, you know, any like these are people, and they're just like, well, yeah, we knew this.
Yeah.
But there's something, I see men in this space become more readily validated by other men in this space. And that's pause. It's not cause for resentment for me at all. I'm happy with where I'm at and who is in my space. But I just think I'm interested in being more effective.
Yeah.
I'm going to work in the science. Great. We all want a little proof. The proof is there now and everybody's talking about it. So
yeah. And that accessibility is huge, right? Because then you can talk to I could talk to my dad then in a way that get it. Or I can talk to the guy in the chairlift because I ski a lot. And he'd be
exactly.
Like, oh, yeah.
I just had a young teenage kid in my kitchen the other day, a friend of my son's, who was having a rough time. And the best way to respond to what he was going through, some anxiety, was with some gratitude. I'm like, okay, every morning you're going to do this. And he was open because he was like super vulnerable and messed up. But then I was like, I'm going to have to back this up. I'm like, it's proven to have a positive effect on your brain chemistry if you do this with some repetition. And I could see him, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's huge. It's huge. I found the same thing. Like it's huge. We often in our courses, my main course is around the habits of yogis and helping people adjust into circadian rhythms, like find the bigger rhythm and everything gets better. Of course, it's counterculture, so it's hard, right? And often what happens is the woman signs up but then she's got this family and this partner, often male, and she's trying to she's now realizing that her habits aren't her own, her habits are communal. And now again, inclusivity, it's like we're so connection saturated, but then we can optimize it. Yeah.
Is that bigger rhythm, moon cycles and digestibility and yeah.
Yeah. And we're in Body Thrive, we do less with moon, but we're more dealing with daily circadian rhythms and then annual rhythms, and our cycle around the sun. Yeah. And it's great because these yogis have had this dinacharya, this daily rhythm for, they codified it 5,000 years ago. So it's there's some history to it. And it's still applicable. So anyone who does these habits, it's simple. Basically, digestion happens better in the daytime than the nighttime. So early or later dinner, early to bed, start the day right, which includes hydrating and pooping. A lot of people don't poop before they get their day on. Exercising or doing breath body practices to awaken the pranic body, et cetera, et cetera. And guide someone through a day that allows body, mind, spirit to optimize. So what often happens with the men is we just use research, and we tie it to something a goal that they're trying to move forward in their life, whether it's a promotion, whether it's men are actually, it's funny, a lot of reason men historically have done yoga is to not shrink because they don't want to lose stature. Right? When you think about oh yeah.
Whatever works, whatever you're reaching for.
Yeah, totally. So I'm we can work with that. We'll bring in statistics. We'll help you get a good night rest and play your best and all that. So yeah, I want to go back now to how do you decide, because with the creative impulse, there's abundance. Naturally, there's abundance, infinite abundance. And so how do you decide what to make beautiful, what to make deliverable and accessible?
What I'm most excited about, always excitement. So enthusiasm is the key metric. If I'm not enthused, I can really break this down into something measurable. We're having a planning meeting about a year ago, and Angie, who's my creative director, and we've been together for 8 years. It's a marriage. she it just sort of rolled off her, but it was so profound. She's like, can we please not do anything you're not excited about? Because if you're not excited about it, it ends up costing us a lot of money.
And probably not being fun.
Because what happens is if I lose my commitment in the middle, the production calendar changes. There has to be all this pivoting, or I've made some unclear bad decision along the way. But if my heart's all in, it's not that it's always smooth sailing, but we've got what it takes to like commit, see things through. I don't change mid-course. And at the same time, our team is really great at pivoting. Like, okay, that didn't work. Next. It's actually forward facing as a term is one of our core values as a team. Like if somebody leaves, we don't talk shit about that person. It's like, bless, they brought what they brought. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
That didn't work. We didn't know that didn't work. Okay, we've got stuff to do.
Yeah.
We want to love on the planet. The forests are on fire.
Yeah.
Let's keep going, facing forward. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that, that recognition that Angie had of that, and how, because there's a humility in that, right? That we don't always know. And I'm really, and I think with, I teach a lot on shadow work as well. And the whole idea of like, there's deep, to me, if we want to grow, we have to deepen depth. We have to deepen integrity. Like that's the name of the game. And that becomes increasingly subtle. So how we're blocking light, if you will, or becomes increasingly subtle. The more light we're sharing, the more we've grown, the more subtle the depth grow. That whole depth integrity is. And so if we're totally open to feedback, because it always is going to take feedback for me with shadow work. Like we need someone else's perspective of what is going on in order to see it, because that's the whole nature of shadow. Is it's really hard to see your own shadow. It's hard to see that next level of subtle integration that brings that next level of integrity of like, oh, it has to be enthusiastic, it has to be in theos, it has to be in God, right? It has to be in full divine alignment for, at this point, us to be invested in moving it forward, is what I'm hearing.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And if I'm not, it's no fun for anybody. So enthusiasm is that's the first choice point. And then we look at ease and resources. Just like, is there space in the calendar for this? Is everybody else excited about this? Is there someone else we want to team with? Has somebody come to us and asked us for this? Is this a request that's showing up in the space, or people asking, am I getting a lot of DMs about this? Is there another film producer? So what's showed up? And then money. It's really simple. It's like, well, what are the profit margins on this? Does it really make sense to do another book? Should we do digitally? And then, and really I should draw this out. Really, it's a circle, because then the money is somehow I've got to have an enthusiastic feeling about the financials of this. Like, I'm going to launch a membership program in October. God, the weaving we've done around the pricing of this is crazy. Not crazy. It's totally sane, but it's like, it's actually going to be quite complex, because I know that a simple pricing model, if I just said it's $100 a month for everybody, I know I would probably sell more, but I would sell more just to a specific group. I actually want to sell a lot to more people, different groups. So I'm going through this thing of like, you've got one price operating on the honor system. This is also wild, right? Here's one price if you can afford this. If your conscience and your budget says you can't afford this, here's another price. Pick one. I'm just going to leave it up to you. And here's a price if you want to bring a friend in. And then how do I work in actual charity donation in that, so that, one, I want to raise as much money as possible for causes, but I also want the purchaser, my member, my friends, my sisterhood, to feel that their $5 or $20 a month is actually going in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want
So
to
it's
have
like conscious investment for a bit.
I don't want to have this invisible, we're just going to give it away. No, you're going to know that. So the bottom line with that is we've decided to say, inclusivity is complex.
Yeah.
So we're all going to have to take the time to think this through, and you're going to have to read our sales page very carefully, and I'll just trust you. What else can you do at the end of the day?
Yeah. And you've built that trust with your audience over time. Or I don't like the word audience, so let me.
My fans.
Edit that.
It's all gets so
I don't
gross.
like the fans either.
I know
like
it's awful. No, the worst one.
The conversation.
Audience,
built that conversation
fans,
with your
and
people.
Users. The users are the worst.
No, consumers are the worst.
Oh, consumers is even worse. Yeah. With fellow people who vibe, yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you've built that level of complexity of inclusivity already, I would say, maybe not to like the newest person coming into your list, but to anyone who's been paying attention or investing awareness. And so it's cool because then you're a leader in that, you're an innovator in that. And so it's showing, hey, this is what we're experimenting with.
Mm-hmm. I have
which
to be
is really
willing
helpful.
To experiment. Yeah. And get it right or get it wrong publicly.
So let's talk about that. Like, and just in terms of we've covered enthusiasm, and that's the massive metric to kick something off, and then to investigate, and then to see what would need to happen and how much dough it would take to fly, and then at that point, if it's a go, then wholeheartly you go for it. And then there's a transparency, right? Of like, hey, and this is because that's a huge part of the experience of you is I'll let you know what's really going on. I'm not going to, have this external image. Oh my gosh. Have you ever met someone who had this like external image and then you met them in person and it was like did not align at all. And there's like when I've felt that, it's like the nervous system is like trying to process a lot of information really quickly and realign to who is this person. And that
my experience of that is I just have this feeling like, oh, I really wanted to be your friend. And now, So I just feel like a little puppy who's just like, okay, I can't play with this person. But yeah, may we all be aligned.
Yeah, we'll be aligned. And then part of that is being willing to share what's actually going on. So what's been your process with that? Like just in terms of, have you always been able to be like, hey, this is what's going on? Or did you go through a maturation with?
No, transparency's been one of my things.
It's come naturally or easily?
It's come naturally, yeah. I mean, it comes naturally doesn't mean it's always easy. Like I don't read my book reviews. Even with the podcast that we just released, I am not in there. The team is saying reviews are great. I'm like, super. I get nice positive feedback in my DMs because no one says anything shitty to my face or my Instagram DMs. But I just can't. I can't do it. I can't. I find it's really distracting to get a negative review. And it's actually even distracting in some ways to get a positive one. Of course, I love encouragement. Of course, I want to get this right. I heard Eckhart Tolle speaking once, like live, and he was saying, I forget what the question was, but he said he didn't go on Amazon and read his book reviews anymore because he found the negative ones created this stickiness in his consciousness. And that's an elegant way of putting it. But because I don't go there, it allows me to just like stay in myself and just tell everybody like, hey, this is what's been going on for me. And this is how this launch went. And this is what we're doing now. And this is our pivot. And this is why I didn't launch. And, I was going to launch a magazine once upon a time and told the world. So like, this is another way I operate is I don't do it quite so much now because we've got so many moving parts, but when I decide I'm going to launch something or make something, I say, hey, everybody, I decided to write a new book and watch this space because it's true. That's what I'm up to as a creative. That's what's happening. What else am I going to talk about? And also, I want to bring people along the ride with me for a couple of reasons. One, it's great marketing.
Yeah.
Two, actually, that's the second reason. The first reason is friendship really is the word. I mean, it's a very Buddhist word to use in this context, but.
And isn't it like, I mean, just like in friendship, like it's a co-creative process, right? Like it's not a stand up and deliver. It's like we're having a conversation and or it's a tennis match, right? We're in front of like where you're hitting it over and you're like, I wonder what they're going to do with that ball. Oh, they had that shot with that ball. Oh, cool. Now I get to have that shot. And then it goes. And if it goes flat, that's so much information.
So much information. Like I can see, this is why I love Instagram, is I can see, even if I just get a handful of comments on something, I can see where the collective is that day. And I go, got it. It's not about the hearts. It's like, oh, wow, that piece I put out there on anxiety, noted. That was consumed in a good way. That piece I put out about inclusive manifestation. God. All right, we'll write more on that. Sometimes whether I want to or not. There's just a little bit of that. I mean, that's where I did like, okay, people are really asking for this. I'm going to, I do have something to say.
And then do you find once you're in it though, that it pivots too, because the creativity comes through it and then you're in it?
Yeah. And we just did a team retreat recently, and really got clear on who we're serving. And there's two types of people we serve. And it was really good. We don't have just one, quote, customer avatar. So the one type of avatar of customer avatar is she's done all the workshops. There's a level of sophistication to her. She's gone through a few rounds of suffering. And you can look at all these other characteristics, like does she do yoga? Does she do this? Is she married? It really doesn't matter to me. It's about worldview. And when I'm engaged with her, like at a speaking gig, I get ideas in that interaction. Mm-hmm. And then I go home that night and I've got 5 new ideas for a chapter or whatever.
Because she's at that level where she's already language, she's already done this and that, and she's done things that you haven't done, so then she's going to bring in that piece, and then that'll get your mind moving. But I don't want to make a choice to like just serve her, right?
There's this other kind of woman who's firmly on the path, but she just got on the path. She just started reading Eckhart Tolle, or she just heard about women who were on there with her. She just go on her first yoga class, and it's a joy to be of assistance to her. So it's both, and that's my definition of community, one of them.
Yeah, we're super similar at Yogahealer in that, where we have our pro group and we have our personal, we call them our pro healers and our personal thrivers. And I mean, some of the people coming in on the personal path might be 100 pounds overweight and overscheduled, no time for themselves, not realizing how much they're controlled by their iPhone, just like the whole thing. And it's so fun I'm like, how quickly do we, like 0 to 60, let's go, and it's like this thing of like, how quickly, because the tribe's really strong. So how quickly can someone, I always draw the parallel to acculturation, which is like, how do you make a food culture? So if you have a really well-developed pot of sauerkraut, you can actually put in rotten vegetables, like vegetables that have rot or disease, right, who are on the decay process. And if the culture is strong enough, it absorbs it, it digests it. It turns it into nutrients.
That is such a brilliant metaphor.
Well, it's in the yogic stuff. Like I found it when I was researching for my book Body Thrive, and it's the terms of Vinayam, and I was like, oh, it makes acculturation. It makes perfect sense. Which is why, if parents have very, very strong aligned daily habits, their child will for life. Like there's
for life
not Yeah, not much variance. They'll choose better friends. They won't turn towards, drugs and alcohol to feel good because they're feeling good. And that'll just feel like toxins. I mean, it's quite, and not that they won't experiment, but they won't get into pathological cycle. It's so fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm,
And it's just a
mm-hmm.
question of that alignment.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. I got to interview you. I mean, right now my podcast is a one-woman show, but
we can talk whenever. We can publish it wherever. I mean,
and you have a book coming out with Sounds True.
Yes, Master of You, which was tough. It was a tough, I love that conversation. I think that's part of why I wanted to be like, at what point do you decide that you want to have another baby? I developed a course with an evolved part of my community on taking the 5 elements of Ayurveda, which to me are just the 5. It's just how humans used to relate to earth and sky and wind and fire and ether. And I looked at how it's called Master of You, and it's really a walk through empowerment with the elements in terms of we take just your space, which is every space that you create for yourself, including like when you open the door to the refrigerator. So kind of like Marie Kondo-ish meets Yoga Sutras.
That is a good one.
And it's all based on some of the methodology of design thinking, of just that playbook of like, hey, there's certain mindsets and there's certain mental skills that will get you to where you want to go faster. So that's a little bit in this ethos chapter, and then we go into space element. And so the whole idea with space is that if your space is operating at the level of your potentiality or your future self, your next future self, if you can get your space to vibrate at that level, it'll pull forward vision. Like you'll start to see much more clearly, and there just won't be crap in the way, like literally physically, like stuff that's just out of alignment in your space that creates a different vibration that repeats outdated habits instead of enabling to innovate better habits that your future self will rely on as daily automated habits. And so then that's fire. Vision is fire element, vision planning, a little bit of strategy, typical like good business strategy applied to just life design. And that's hard for most yogi types. They see the vision, but they don't want to do the strategy. And then we go into air element, which is time. How does this arise in the field of time? And then body. Then what are the basic body rhythms? Where I condense body thrive into like a chapter and three basic concepts of rhythm. And then water element, which is shadow. Like what shit is going to get stirred up by you trying to become bigger than you are? Like, what do you need to see? And how will this whole process just churn that up so that you can see it and digest it and absorb it and then grow from it. And then the whole thing begins again.
Beautiful.
But it was hard. It was hard because there was definitely I don't know. It was it's innovative in itself, application of Ayurveda into the future. I expect some, in terms of feedback, like I expect to be ignored by a certain percentage of the traditional Ayurvedic community, that it'll just seem woo-woo or out there. And then just in terms of like what I've heard back from endorsers and, the pre-readers is like the ones that get it, like get where Ayurveda, how to make it quick and accessible, how to empower people really quickly. They're like, wow, this, thanks. Yeah. So thanks for asking.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Well, I've so enjoyed our time, and let me just reach out whenever you want to talk again, and I'll do the same. Yeah. Is there anything in closing that you want to share on creative process and following the impulse to spread joy?
Do it for the love. There's nothing to prove. How can I want to say this in like the most grounded way possible. Like be in the flow. Like every idea it's there for you. Here's what I want to say. This is it. Be receptive. Just be receptive. If you're in a state of receptivity, you're receiving guidance, you're receiving resources, you're getting energy, and that guidance is going to spill over from like the idea to, hey, maybe you should get 7 to 8 hours sleep tonight, to, hey, that's the right person, to, so just receive, because life has the best idea. Life really has the best idea and the purest energy and the brightest light. Just be open to receiving that. Be the conduit. Being conduit is really the easiest thing to do. We do all this heavy lifting, try to figure it out ourselves. But just open up.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate our time together.
Likewise. Yeah.